Spirit Halloween has Spikey's puppets, but they don't have the one that Fatso uses. We're gonna go ahead and put one together, and no sewing required because we don't have time for that. Start the head shape with a ball of aluminum foil. I'm gonna create a little tunnel to put your finger. I just use the end of a Sharpie. Put a little foam clay in there just to make it smooth and make sure there was no sharp areas. Need a basic ball. I'm gonna smooth it out with water. Now, if this first layer is a little lumpy, you don't really have to worry about it. We're just gonna let this dry. Now we're gonna add more clay and try to get it really nice and smooth this time. After that dries, create some fresh balls of clay for the eyes and the nose. Did also have to add some to the bottom because I realized it had gotten a little flat. Now for the body. Got this fairly similar fabric from Amazon, sketched out a rough hand puppet shape. You're gonna wanna make sure the body is wide enough for your hands. I didn't make the neck as long as it should have been, but you'll see why this is important later. Just fold it in half and that will make it symmetrical. So in the film, the stripes on the sleeves are in a different direction than the ones across the body. If you don't wanna mess with this extra step, you could just make the body from here. Since I wanna be a little more screen accurate, we're gonna tackle the sleeves. So first we're gonna trim them off. I did cut the body part on a fold, so I only had to glue one side. Also hem the bottom with some hot glue. This just makes it look nicer. Glue the side closed. Make sure you pay attention to what side the print is on, because you don't wanna have the seam on the good side of fabric. Now for those sleeves. You don't wanna just use the ones that you trimmed off the original pattern. Just gonna wanna add a little extra fabric to it so you have more to glue onto. So I made a slightly wider stencil for this. Probably extended it more than I needed to, but I'd rather have too much fabric than not enough. I also trimmed this on a bit of a fold just to keep the pieces together. You do not have to do this. I just like that I don't have to fuss with two separate pieces of fabric. Okay, so sleeves are the bane of my existence. For whatever reason, my brain always screws up the placement. I mean, without fail, every clown costume I have sewn, at least one of the sleeves are on wrong. I'd always have to go back and fix it. So why would this be any different? In rewatching this footage, it's absolutely obvious what I was doing wrong. But in the moment, my brain just checks out. Let's try that again. Okay, so I had all of it on the print side, and this just seemed easier for my brain to process. Way less confusing for myself. For the gloves, I had some white fabric. This is just a little extra from the clown glove tutorial. Trimmed off the end of the arms, sketch a rough shape, and glue it into a little glove. Attach it to the arms, and then I stuffed the hands and some of the arms with some cotton. This is just gonna make it a little more stable. Back to the head. For the hat, you can totally make this out of paper. I would recommend using a heavier paper like cardstock. I actually had some EVA cones I had made for a past project, so I'm just gonna go ahead and trim one of those down. Just gonna cover it in some yellow craft paint. A little fuzz ball on top, I use red Kinakalon hair, just a small amount, and roll it in my hands until it's a tangled little ball. Get the face painted, again, just using craft paints. Now for the black around the eyes, you can drive yourself crazy and use a tiny little brush and try to paint that up, but I figured for the sake of my sanity and a quick tip, just use a fine tip marker. It will look great and so much easier. And for the pupils, instead of trying to paint little circles, I just took a cotton swab, dipped it in the black, and just carefully stamped them on. I ended up mixing the blues because I didn't have exactly what I wanted. All painted, now time for the hair. Go back to that Kinakalon hair. I have red and pink. I'm gonna rub it in my hands and make sort of a tube shape. You don't wanna go too crazy and make it too tight. Added some of the pink on top, glue on the hat, and now to attach the head. I usually like buying the pre-ruffled ribbon, but I couldn't find it in white for some reason. I'm gonna try this wide wire ribbon. Adding a little bit of a ruffle to it as I glue around the neck. And you wanna make sure you seal the ends because this stuff does like to fray. In the second layer, I cut the ribbon slightly thinner and glued the edge that I cut and attached that on top. Okay, so like I was saying before, I should have made the neck a little longer. And now you can kind of see how when you move the arms, it pushes the collar up. If you're making this, definitely just give yourself a little more length on that neck. Probably should have just rewatched my spiky puppet video and this never would have happened. So you have your puppet, but you're going to need a glove for your other hand. Click the next video to see how you can make clown gloves with no sewing required.